You boys be quiet down there!
Welcome back to PC98 Paradise, the series where we take a close look at classic games for the NEC PC98, the most popular Japanese PC series of the early 1990s. Today on PC98 Paradise, for the first time we're looking at a doujin game. Doujin games are games made and distributed by regular folks in Japan, rather than a major game publisher. So basically what we would call fan-made or homebrew games in the West. Typically, doujin games are made by groups of people, often students at high schools or universities. Today's game, however, was made by Zunsoft, consisting of a single person, Junya Zun Ota, who not only did the programming, but all of the graphics, music, and everything on his own. And he's been doing so since 1995, all the way up to the present day, garnering a large following of fans with his sole series known as Touhou Project. The first 5 Touhou Project games were programmed on and released for the NEC PC98, while Zun was attending Tokyo Denki University. As a side note, Zun used these games to get a job at Taito after he graduated, but later found he preferred working alone and eventually went back to making the Touhou games, this time for Windows. But going back to the original 5 games for PC98, Zun first started working on the first one in 1995, but never released it until the Tokyo Comic Market in 1997, where he simultaneously sold the first 2 Touhou games. He only brought along 30 copies of the first, and was surprised he easily sold them all. Doujin games at the time were typically distributed on floppy disks, copied manually on somebody's PC at home or school, with printed labels and photocopied manuals. The first Touhou game was on a single floppy disk. I don't collect doujin games myself, since it can be very difficult to tell an original from a reproduction. Nonetheless, verifiable originals of these PC98 Touhou games sell for literally thousands of dollars. Even the compilation CD-ROM released later, which contains all 5 of the PC98 games, sells for nearly as much nowadays. The install process for that CD-ROM version looks a little something like this. From the main directory of the CD, open the folder titled 1_Reiden in Japanese. Inside, you'll find a number of files and a folder named Disk 1. Open that folder and run install.bat, indicating the target hard drive after the batch file name, which for me is drive A. The installer will welcome you with some ASCII art, and after a couple of on-screen messages, it will begin to copy the necessary files. After installation, you'll have a new directory called Reiden on your hard drive, which contains a batch file named game.bat, which you run to start the game. The game doesn't have an opening sequence, but there is a short intro animation showing the names Zunsoft and Touhou Project. The first Touhou game is titled Touhou Reiden, the highly responsive to prayers. I wonder what that title means. Is there like a god who's especially responsive if you pray to him? First, let's open the option menu. The difficulties range from easy to lunatic. For music, you can select only FM or off. The number of lives defaults to 5, but I've found most people uploading videos of the game online have this changed to 3, probably because they're really good at the game. Personally, since 5 is the default from the beginning, I think there's no shame in leaving it on 5. Lastly, the inclusion of a music test is of course greatly appreciated. In Touhou Reiden, you take control of a shrine maiden named Reimu Hakure in her quest into another world to punish those who destroyed her shrine. And how does she go about this? Surprisingly, the first Touhou Project game isn't a shooter, but rather a Breakout or Arkanoid style game. When asked why this is, Zun has stated, Reimu bounces a yin-yang ball around the screen in order to flip all the tiles. She controls the ball by either shooting it with a straightforward shot, executed with the Z key on the keyboard, or by waving her gohei with the X key. Yeah, if you ever wondered what one of those Shinto purification rods you may have seen in games like Pocky and Rocky is called, it's a gohei. Unlike Breakout or Arkanoid, you won't die from allowing the ball to hit the bottom of the screen. You simply knock it back up toward the tiles and keep playing. However, if you can manage to keep hitting the tiles without allowing the ball to hit the floor, you'll score massive points with the combo counter. Also, you're going to want to make sure Reimu isn't hit by the ball. The ball is often one of your greatest enemies in this game. If you press X while holding either left or right, which are 4 and 6 on the keyboard by the way, Reimu will perform a slide, which can be used to kick the ball up into the air or avoid shots. There are also a couple of more advanced moves that can be performed during the slide. Press the opposite direction plus X for a rolling kick, or Z for a rapid barrage of 8 continuous shots. Lastly, there are bombs. These are similar to bombs in shooting games as they not only damage everything on screen but also make Reimu invincible for a short while. If the timer runs out, you'll be told to hurry up and shots will fall rapidly from the top of the screen until you either clear the stage or die. And after the stage, you'll get some bonus points and be shown your total. Okay, I'll stop picking on Zune for his spelling mistakes now. Incidentally, the game also has a couple of different English patches available. In my opinion, the game doesn't really need an English patch, but they exist anyway if you want to read what little Japanese text the game has in English. Every 5th stage of the game is a boss. They have a life meter displayed at the top of the screen which you can drain by hitting them with the ball. This is one part of the game where you can experience a small preview of the bullet hell that awaits later in the series. Sometimes you can even see some slowdown in my footage here. My PC98 has a 486 CPU running at 33 MHz, which is within the recommended specs for the game. This is also plenty of power to burn when it comes to the majority of games I show in this series, by the way. However, with a few of these Dojin games from the late 90s, my CPU can occasionally choke. There are faster PC9821 models where you'll experience less slowdown, but as you can imagine, when there's this many shots on the screen, I'm often grateful for the slowdown anyway. Finish the first boss on stage 5 and you'll get a choice to go to either Makai, the demon world, or Jigoku, hell. Depending on which route you choose, you'll get an entirely different set of 15 stages for the remainder of the game, which means the game has a total of 35 stages, including 7 bosses. Learning the boss patterns is a major key to mastering the game. The boss characters all have names, but only one of them, Mima, appears in any of the later games. By the way, when asked if these old PC98 Toho games are still considered canon, Zune has responded that
it's the same world. There are a few contradictions in the story when putting the PC98 and Windows games side by side, but I would take reference from the latest games to consider what's canon.
But on a separate occasion, he's also said,
I generally have no comment regarding the PC98 games. Please ignore them, just as one can ignore derivative works.
So basically, the PC98 games may be canon if you want them to be, but not when they directly contradict anything in the newer Windows games. Well, fair enough. It is his series after all. This first game doesn't have much of a story anyway. Since there are unlimited continues, if you want, you can just credit feed the game and finish it relatively easily. However, if you want to see the good endings, you'll have to clear the game without continuing. Boy, this is going to be hard for me to do using the keyboard. PC98s have joystick ports via either the soundboard or mouse port if there's built-in stereo FM sound like on this system, but this game doesn't support the joystick port at all. Let's take out the Elecom PC98 keyboard emulator, which I've shown in previous videos. This is a device you plug into the keyboard port, which then allows you to plug a gamepad into it to emulate key presses. If you switch this thing to the red mode, the button layout is practically made for the later Toho games, but in this first game there's an issue. Pressing the diagonal directions on the D-pad will send these 4 keys, which this game doesn't use, so pressing up or down even ever so slightly while pressing left or right, which I often do, will cause Reimu to come to a dead stop. In order to fix this, I need to set the keyboard emulator to the flashing edit mode and change to pattern 4 instead of pattern 8. Which means it just uses these 4 keys for the D-pad instead of all 8. Perfect. The only thing that presents a bit of a problem here are the bombs. One way they can be executed is by pressing both buttons on the controller twice in rapid succession. This works, but it's not 100% reliable when you really need to launch a bomb right away. The other way is by pressing both left and right simultaneously along with the fire button. This is possible on a keyboard, but not on a gamepad, obviously. With my keyboard emulator, you only get 2 trigger buttons, and you can't assign multiple keys to a single button, so there aren't a lot of options. I experimented, but settled on just leaving the default controls for bombs. Sometimes when I don't need my hand on the D-pad, I actually reach over and hold 4 and 6 on the keyboard and press fire on the controller, which is a little faster and more reliable than double pressing both buttons. Obviously, if you're playing on an emulator, you're going to have a lot more freedom to design your own button layout. Okay, now let's discuss some winning strategies for the game. There's good reason why I made so much fuss over the bomb controls, since the bombs are really key to playing well. At first I thought bombs were best used on the bosses, right when you think you're about to die, similar to how you would use them in many shmups. And true, this can be a valid way to survive when you have no other options. However, there's a much better time to use your bombs, and that's right away at the beginning of the regular non-boss tile stages. Using a bomb when there's still a ton of tiles on screen will cause all or most of them to be flipped, instantly raising the combo counter and giving you massive points. In fact, you'll often get at least one 1-up when you do this. The problem is, you start the game with only one bomb, and you only obtain additional ones each time you die. Once in a blue moon, you'll find a bomb up icon, which will grant an additional bomb, but otherwise the only way to get bombs is to die, and you want bombs to use at the beginnings of the stages. So, especially a lot of speedrunners use this strategy, but dying is often beneficial in this game. Dying is the process by which you convert lives into bombs. You can either try to die as soon as you can at the beginning of a stage, or even better yet, die before the end of the previous stage if you can. Hell, if you have enough lives, you can maybe even die multiple times in the same stage in order to accumulate enough bombs for the coming tile stages before the next boss. I wish I could go back in time to when I first started learning this game and tell myself not to sweat it when I die. Dying is healthy in this game. Dying is a part of life. So you bomb your way through all the tile stages and get to a boss stage. For me then, the strategy for the bosses is just to learn the patterns and try to never use bombs. You want to save them for the coming tile stages. If you die on the bosses, then that's great. More bombs. In fact, you might want to even die intentionally before finishing off the bosses in order to get some. The only time you need to really worry is when you're on your last life. Then if you die, it's game over. So if you absolutely need to use a bomb in order to survive, it might be preferable to do so. For either of the final bosses, I go ahead and use up all my remaining bombs if I'm on my last life, and see if I can manage to finish off the game that way. I sure don't want to get game over while I still have unused bombs. I have no idea if this is the way Zune intended the game to be played, but with the scoring rules he set up, some variation of this strategy seems to work out best in the end. Playing the game this way, it wasn't long before I was ready to take on Lunatic mode. At this difficulty setting, everything shoots at you a lot more, and even the tiles shoot straight at you every time they're flipped. Finish both of the game's routes on Lunatic mode, maybe with the number of lives turned all the way down to 3 if you want, and you've earned some serious bragging rights, my friend. The game's graphics are quite flashy, and sometimes even look like the game is glitching up, in the most beautiful way. It definitely does look like a Dojin game, cause it is, and the hand-drawn pixel art looks like it was drawn on a 90s paint program, cause it probably was. Zune may not have been the greatest dot graphic designer in the world at this point, but the art style is fun and gets the job done. And again, you gotta give it to Zune for being a jack of all trades.
Written, directed, edited, starring, and catered by J. Prescott Sherman.
Even more than the artwork, the Touhou games are known for their fast-paced, intense music. So much so that I understand some fans enjoy listening to Touhou music even more than playing the games. So that begs the question, how's the music in this first Touhou outing on the PC-98? Well, in short, I would say it's great. The tunes are complex, yet quickly become memorable and addictive as you spend hours trying to master the game. It's also commendable that Zune decided to use the PC-98's newer Stereo 980186 soundboard, whereas many Dojin games stuck with only the old monaural board. In fact, this game isn't really designed to work at all with the old board, and will sound funny if you use it. As a PC-98 fan, personally I'd say that the Touhou games in general have far from the greatest music ever produced on the system, though that's certainly a matter of preference. The games have kind of a strange sound that's quite different from most commercially released PC-98 games. However, there are also a few really cool and impressive sounds used occasionally, like in the final boss of the Hell Route. The game has one tune, however, that several people have pointed out sounds a little similar to Yellow Magic Orchestra's 1980 track, Raideen. It's a very well-known piece of music here in Japan, and even I noticed the similarity before I looked it up and found several other people pointing this out. This guy even has a whole list of Touhou tracks that he says sound similar to other game BGMs, or popular music. But again, let's give Zune due credit. He's written so much great music, it's no surprise he may have unintentionally drawn inspiration from other things he's heard over the years. And as for the game programming, Zune has said regarding the PC-98 games,
Programming a shooter on the 98 is difficult. The VRAM on that thing is not designed for games with a lot of movement. It makes me really appreciate how easy things are today with DirectX. Hey, Mr. Jakes, why did you get me for this video? This game isn't even a shmup.
well, you know, it's a shmup series. Who better to portray Zune in English on YouTube? Anyway, thanks for reading the Zune quotes for this video, Shmup Junkie. Everyone be sure to subscribe to Shmup Junkie's channel if you're not already a regular viewer. So today, we looked at the very first game in Zune's Touhou Project series. Whatever you do, don't write it off just because it isn't a shooter like the other games. Touhou Raiden, the highly responsive to prayers, has highly addictive gameplay and tons of challenge for those who want to try to 1cc the two routes in the different difficulty modes. If you're a fan of this series, then definitely check out the very first game on the PC-98, and if you've never heard of this series before, then check out Touhou Project in general. I think you'll be glad you did. Thanks for watching this episode of PC-98 Paradise. If you're a Touhou fan who found this video, then I encourage you to subscribe and check out my other videos to see what else the PC-98 has to offer. Thanks also to all regular viewers, and an extra special thanks to patrons on Patreon and YouTube for their continued support. Check back again in a few weeks for some more old school Japanese gaming fun.